What's up, toy fans? We are going to take a look at the latest and greatest SH Figuarts Star Wars figure from Bandai. We have got the A New Hope version of Chewbacca here, and we're going to take a quick look at packaging real quick. Standard Figuarts style box. You can see we've got our kind of foil embossed logo on the window. This is obviously a bigger box. Chewie is a bigger figure. He comes in a bit of a deeper box as well, but still the same style. It's just bigger. We've got our figure on the side. We've got some shots of him on the back there along with Han, and then some various Japanese warnings telling you to not put him in your mouth or something similar probably. And then some stuff on the bottom. Let's pull him out and take a look. All right, now here he is out of the box. I'm going to preface this review by saying that to begin with, I almost didn't buy this figure. The original promo images to me looked really, really weird. His scale was a bit of a concern, and I just thought he didn't look right. I was content to have a couple Black Series Chewies and be done with it. But then I saw a recent review out of Japan, and it was just images. I couldn't read any of it, but just some images, and realized, okay, he actually looks pretty damn good. So we had to get him, and I am pretty pleasantly pleased. This is, for all intents and purposes, a very solid Chewbacca figure. For the size of his box, he really doesn't come with as much stuff as I thought he would, and I'm kind of blissfully ignorant in terms of what this figure comes with. But we're going to go over the basic stuff, and then we'll go over accessories and all the doodads that he comes with, because, you know, even though he doesn't come with a ton of stuff for a figure art, he comes with more than most normal figures. So we'll start with articulation, and his head is on a ball, but obviously you're going to have problems, and this is just a sculpt thing. So the sculpt is going to cause problems with you being able to rotate his head to a certain degree. So that's just the way it is, and I can't really fault him for that. The arms can go all over every which way. No problems there. He does have a bicep swivel. He has a removable face. I did not mean to do that. So bicep swivel. We have got a ball jointed elbow, which can go more than 90 and then fully extend. And then we've got wrists that hinge and swivel. He has a kind of it just looks kind of odd to me, but it's obviously a waist twist. And he has a bit of a crunch, not tons, but a decent bit. Legs can go out about that far. You have to do the old Figuarts thing where they drop down a little bit. There is not really much of a rotation there, though. It does move, you can see that. Not a ton. Knees can go back pretty decent clip. The good thing about these joints, though, is that they fully sculpted the knee joint, so you know, if you bend it really weird, it still has a fur type sculpt in there, which I really like. It could have been a really ugly joint, and they didn't do that. Feet will go in and out. You can rotate, and then they're on a ball, so they have a pretty good range of motion. He is not the most articulated Figuarts, and you know, ultimately I think that comes down to the sculpt and just the type of character. He's a big furry, you know, Wookiee. So he's got a bunch of fur that hangs down and drapes over, and since there's no cloth or any kind of soft goods on him, he is all plastic. So that's what you're going to get. He's got to have fur sculpted in the places it needs to be, and it's going to hinder articulation. I think the biggest culprit is obviously around the head, because he has his hair and then, you know, his Wookiee beard hanging over his chest. Now, as far as paint goes, he has quite a bit. I think that's where he shines. There is a lot of shading. He's obviously brown, various hues of brown. We've got shading all over. That's essentially what the paint job is. It's shading all over. You can see the darker area, you know, his kind of mustachy type area. The eyes are painted. They're inset. They're very deep inset. And that's one of the things that kind of struck me as maybe problematic for the first time I saw him, was that he looked cross-eyed, and he still kind of does depending on how you look at him. I think it's kind of an angle type of thing, but they are painted correctly. As far as I can tell, they look fine when you're looking at them kind of dead on. So that's okay. But that head was one of my concerns, and I think the paint job really helps to alleviate that concern, especially now that I've got it in hand. But for the majority of the figure, he is just shades of brown, and it looks good. There's no, it's going to be hard to get that shading wrong, I think. And I think it's overall very clean, looks good. Different hues all over the place. The bandolier is obviously painted. It's got the silver, metallic silver, black and brown, and then his satchel has the painted clips, and it's got shading on it as well to look kind of worn and leathery. Now, I think the big thing outside of articulation and paint is definitely for this character going to be sculpt. So like I said, I thought he looked kind of weird, and I don't think he looks weird now that I have him in person. I'm very glad that I got him. He is, at least in this scale, as far as I'm concerned, this is the best Chewie that you could get. He's certainly better than the Black Series in terms of overall sculpted detail, but those two figures are still very good. He is just loaded with sculpted line work. It's great, and that face is awesome. I really, really like it now. Now that I've got it in hand, I'm very pleased with it. I think it looks good. A lot of sculpted fur and hair. I mean, that's all he is. He's a big hairball. So they went to town on that line work all over the figure, and I'm ultimately very pleased with that. So let's take a quick look at the accessories. He's got some other hands. Obviously, he's got a bowcaster somewhere, and he does have another face. All right, so Chewie wouldn't be Chewie without his bowcaster, and even more so now with Episode 7, where we see that it is just a powerhouse of a weapon. Not to mention, it has always been just one of the coolest guns in Star Wars, as far as I'm concerned. I think they did a really good job with this. It's all pretty much kind of the same flat black with a little bit of a shine to it, but it's kind of matte at the same time. It looks good. It's got a kind of flexible strap there, and he comes with one hand attached, so he's only going to ever hold it in his right hand, but he's meant to hold it that way anyway. And like usual, they do what they need to do to make it so you can easily get this thing on. So he's got the hands are kind of recessed underneath some of the fur, at least on the open hands. So you have to just pop them off and then they go on. But they might be a little troublesome to get, but once you get them in there, they're fine. And then, of course, the fact that the hand is attached to the gun makes it, a non-issue to pose. He's going to always hold it and he's never going to drop it. So you can take that and then one of the extra open style hands to make him hold it like he's actually going to shoot it. So speaking of other hands, he does come with two sets that he comes with. One's the fist hands. We got them right here, and and it always creeps me out a little to see like the black hands underneath the fur. I don't know why you never really see him in the original trilogy, but you definitely see him in The Force Awakens, and it always just kind of catches me off guard. And then he's got an extra set of hands that are open, so you can have him with open or fisted hands. Same kind of fur detail on all of them, which is great. The other thing he comes with, like I said, he does have an extra face. It's not an extra head. You obviously saw me pop the face off by mistake a second ago. So you just pop it off, and he's got a roaring head. Which, I mean, obviously that is a classic Chewie expression. I do think that maybe this face is where I get a lot of my kind of cross-eyed look from. This face looks to me to be a little more cross-eyed than this one. And, I could be wrong. It's just those eyes are so deep set in the face that, I don't know, it kind of jumps out at me as like, that's kind of weird. But at the same time, I'm like, yeah, that's kind of not. So ultimately I'm okay with it. And this face obviously has a little bit of different sculpt. The overall sculpt is the same. It's the mouth that's really different. It's got that open mouth with the teeth showing. It's all painted, and he's got a painted tongue inside of there as well. I'll probably be displaying him maybe like this, I think. Unless I've got some sort of situation going on with him and Han, maybe, where they're just standing around next to each other. But I like this extra face. I like the fact that they included it with the figure. It's always great to have other options, and as usual, Figuarts gives you what you need to display your characters in a specific way. So I'm a fan in that regard. All right, now just for sake of comparison, because I know it was an issue for me, so it's probably an issue for other people, is his size. So we're going to put him up against the original Black Series Chewie, and just to get an idea of how different they are, you can see that he is obviously taller. Overall, though, I'm not too upset about his size. I think in the Figuarts scale, Chewie he's adequate. I still think he is on the small side overall, just in terms of the scale itself, and this Chewy is more in line. We can do a quick just measurement just to see, tell you what the difference is between the two. And we've got Black Series Chewy coming in at 7.5 inches, and Figuarts Chewy at 6 3/4, maybe 6 7/8 inches. So there is definitely a height difference. Outside of that slight scale issue, there's no way I can compare the two. They're not on the same playing field. I am still content with this as a Black Series figure. I think it's still holds up pretty well. He is pretty damn cross-eyed though, now that I look at it. So maybe that's always a thing for Chewy. Who knows? And then just to bring them all together, get the band back. Here is Chewy with Figuarts Han. So he's obviously not in scale. He's definitely taller than Han. So he is too small, at least too short. And then here's Farm Boy Luke alongside, and he's the shortest of the three. But I think they all look good together, so I'm very pleased overall in that regard. At the end of the day, I am glad that I got this figure. Like I said initially, I was going to skip this, and I'm glad I didn't. It would have left a gap in my Figuarts display for sure, and I would have been bummed about that to begin with. But he is a good figure. Where he is limited in his articulation due to the sculpt of the figure, he makes up for it in the sculpt, in that detail, and then in that paint job. He comes with not a ton, but with good accessories. So I can't really fault it for that. He is a pivotal Star Wars character, and ultimately, I would have been upset if I didn't buy him. So I am glad that I made this purchase, and if you are into this line, you gotta get him. That's it. So that's going to do it for this review, everyone. As always, stay tuned for more. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and share. Let me know what you think of this guy. Are you going to get him? Have you gotten him? How do you compare him to Black Series? Let me know. So until next time, everyone.